A very good morning to all of you. So today morning, I pray that we have a lively and a lovely discussion on a very interesting topic that, I think is a concern not only for those down here, but I think the entire world. So whilst I do not claim that we have all the answers, but I think the challenge is going to be to hear the humming noises or voices, whichever you prefer, and I hope that it'll be rhythmic in a sense that you get to express, and I hope my great panel members, I'm told that Dr. Akshay Singhal is a celebrity here in a sense, so we're honored by his presence, a young man, followed by Gautam Maheshwaran, who is racing in his energy to deliver something which is unique, I'm sure, and followed by somebody I met yesterday, a fantastic guy who told me something. He said, I was worried about timing, 10:15 to 11, because my background is I'm from Singapore. And if you've been to Singapore, we have to be on time. So he said, don't worry. As long as you start today, I think you should be happy. So that made me a little bit more relaxed. And I hope the tone is set so that you are, first of all, comfortable. There are many challenging questions in this industry. And the topic is very exciting, I think, personally. How EV can see, or electric vehicles can see faster commercial adoption. And I've added a few more words, using battery. I wanted to be very specific, mainly because my background is actually in law. I'm an arbitrator, and maybe that's why I'm here, using my seniority to moderate. My background basically, until 7 years ago when I retired, was a teacher. I used to run colleges in Singapore, in China, and one in Chennai, associated with the London School of Economics. Engineering is something of a passion to me. And so battery was more meaningful in the last 10 years for me. And personally, as a retiree, I don't like to be bored. I want to do something meaningful. And I think the world belongs to the young people down here in manufacturing in trying to offer solutions. And we have some as well to recommend, but I thought it's best that each one of my guests who are more qualified to offer their solutions, we thought it'll be best that we have a discussion. So I'm going to let each one of my distinguished guests today to introduce themselves and to touch on the simplest thing on the topic today, opportunities and challenges, not just in battery manufacturing, but generally what are we doing really? Because I don't see that we are alone responsible in any way. I think jointly, my concern personally, and I want to put it out there, is 2 weeks ago in Mecca, the temperature went 51.8 degrees. So what is happening? I was told it's 1.5 degrees which we concern, and Mecca temperature is similar to Chennai. So as I read up and researched about heat stroke and all, it felt as though it's like you're burning from inside and dying. So as I get older, I think about these things. Apologize for putting it out there, but I think it's a lively topic, by the way, today. And so I want to see the energy from all of you. And as I said, one voice alone doesn't make a humming tune. So we're going to hear many voices, and the only rule I have is, we've got to try and finish in half an hour or so that the next session can start on time. So we can keep members to questions. We want to have that. And voice out. If you're angry, put a humming tune. A drum beat, a guitar, So voice out respectfully. And we don't have the answer. And some of the things we come up with is always joined, right? And so let's voice out. And I want to start off with my celebrity first, but I suppose we all are celebrities. He's just a young man. I think he's challenging, and all these young guys are challenging themselves. And I see many out there challenging themselves to outdo. In my travels in many countries, I've seen the Taiwanese business, the Korean businesses, they work together. I want to put it out there that why aren't Indians working together? We're not competing with one another, right? Are we really? We can jointly collaborate, and many offers are possible. So that's what I'm trying to put out there, that you have solutions. Let's partner. Let's make India achieve its Vision 2047. Can we do it faster? So I don't want an incremental strategy that we're going to do 1%, 5% in the next 1 year. Why not think bigger? And with that, I'm going to leave these young men, especially I want to hear, Guru, I want to hear your views as well. The future is for the young people. I think I'm working for personally for my children. I've got 4. And I want to make it a better world for them. I like to see beautiful things. And the best beautiful answers comes when you do it in harmony. So my celebrity, Akshay, can you take over? It's Dr. Akshay, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here in Chennai today. The weather has been kind, unlike usually how it is in Chennai, but I'm very happy to be here. So, talking about EVs and adoption, I think for the first time I'm on a panel where the topic is regarding commercial EV adoption. So, what I take off it is that how do we expedite transition of vehicles to electric, particularly for commercial utility, which is to do with anything to do with starting from a 2-wheeler for food delivery to a 3-wheeler or a 4-wheeler cargo vehicle or a taxi vehicle, buses, trucks, and anything and everything in between, right? So that is where I think a lot of sense of transitioning to EV from a cost perspective, from a climate impact perspective already makes sense, which is still a bit of a fight in the personal use case. And that is one of the, I think it's one of a very underappreciated fact that the EV's true potential and benefit really comes out in the commercial utility of these vehicles. Because, for example, the upfront cost of an electric vehicle is still higher as compared to a normal fuel vehicle, while the running cost is literally 10 to 15% of that of a usual fuel vehicle, petrol or diesel, whatever it is. So, from that perspective, unless and until you are able to use it enough every day, the parity will not hit, and actually you will not be able to have a net benefit from that perspective. So if only when you are looking at something between 70, 80 kilometers to as high as 150, 200 kilometers of average run per day, that's when electric vehicle becomes really, really, so to say, cost efficient. But one of the bigger unknown facts or underappreciated fact is that the same math kind of works for its climate impact or carbon emission saving as well. Because there's a lot to be done when it comes to manufacturing of batteries, manufacturing of electric vehicles, the processes that are available today for mining, for processing, for assembly, and all of those things are not the cleanest. And there is a lot of emissions that happen on that site, which makes even the locked-in emissions in the manufacturing process of electric vehicle much higher than a fuel-based vehicle, while the running emissions are significantly lower. So that is a journey that we are on, and while we are solving for better manufacturing processes, more cleaner energy or completely clean energy available for charging of vehicles, till that time, I think the lower hanging fruits where EVs can create a real impact is particularly coming in from the commercial use of these vehicles across different vehicle categories. So that's where we as a company at Log9 also focus on. We took this call multiple years back where we said that all the battery solutions that we will be providing for to start with will be for commercial mobility applications, and then we will use a lot of data analysis, a lot of data collection, and then algorithms and AI-based analytics to make sure that we are able to manage these EVs and these batteries going out in their field in terms of what is the life of these assets, what is the upcoming problem if anything is coming up, how can we predictively analyze and manage those failures happening, how can we give a very tangible residual value to the batteries going out in the field, and how do we ensure that as a very heavy duty use of these batteries happening in commercial EVs, they are able to deliver that kind of consistent and reliable performance on these vehicles. So at Log9, we start right from cell manufacturing, which we have set up the first lithium-ion cell manufacturing in the country at scale. And then we are ramping that up with the partners available in the ecosystem. And then we go towards battery pack manufacturing, and then a lot of data analytics on top of actual batteries deployed in the field for use. So that's the length and breadth of what we cover, and I'll leave it to other panelists over here to share their views, and then we can come back to specific questions.
Thank you, Dr. Akshay. Gautam is another young man. I mean, he's racing against time, as I said. He's got race energy with him, and he's got a wonderful solution. And tell us more about your company, and how you got into business, and what are you trying to achieve, and what are your pain points that you want to address us. We can talk about. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here, along with the panel that we have here. Wonderful people to be sharing the panel with. And thank you all for coming down this early on a Sunday morning. I'm sure most of us would have been awake watching the match last night. But yeah, that basically shows the interest that us as a collective show towards the EV movement that's happening, and the curiosity that's there inside each of us to, like we're discussing, how to fast track and accelerate the adoption of these EVs across. I think Dr. Akshay very well summarized a lot of topics that cover how we're going to take this forward from the position we are in, where we see one or two in 10 vehicles on road which are electric, taking them close to a higher percentage of the entire EV, the vehicle fleets that are running on road. India is a very cost sensitive market, to be precise, right? So we are all worried about how much it's going to cost us. We don't exactly calculate what benefits it's going to bring to us in the long term. Instead, we look at how much is it going to cost me upfront? How much do I have to put in upfront? So that is one question I think we will have to answer, taking this discussion forward. And a lot of different approaches to answering that question. So I think Dr. Akshay said the lowest hanging fruit right now is the commercial use case, where there are millions of vehicles in the two-wheelers and three-wheelers operating fleets for food deliveries and last mile delivery and last mile logistics, who cover on a daily basis close to 80s and hundreds of kilometers on road, compared to the personal vehicle space. So these guys can easily transition towards EVs, given the cost factor adds up, and everyone's trying to grow green and all that stuff. So what this will help is basically bring in the ecosystem for the entire EV segment to grow. And once that ecosystem comes into picture, the cost of personal vehicles would automatically fall down going forwards, and that is going to drive passenger EV adoption as well. So I feel the lowest hanging fruit is the ones that we have to target right now, and within that there are a lot of different opportunities. Log9, for example, is working on new battery chemistries, faster charging solutions. We at Race are working on battery swapping solutions, where you can swap the batteries within a couple of minutes, and you don't have to purchase the batteries upfront. There are dash charging and fast charging solutions coming up. Different business models integrating all of these together to give different subscription models and different ownership franchisee models that are coming up to enable the end user pick and choose across all the available EV segments and across all the solutions, so that it's easier for them to make a decision between, do I go and purchase a IC engine vehicle, or do I try this new EV solution out. So we are all working on different aspects of it. At Race, we manufacture the auto rickshaws, the L5 auto rickshaws that you see on road, on the battery swapping model. We basically wanted to reduce that upfront cost of investing into owning an electric vehicle on road, and we combined this battery swapping as a solution to give the end user a very similar experience as to how he or she would refuel a vehicle when he's running on a petrol or a diesel owned vehicle. So that's one solution we're working on. Within the batteries, I think there is a lot of opportunity to increase the efficiencies using data that we get, tremendous amount of data that come from the EVs, and especially because they're all connected vehicles on road, you could easily manage fleets, improve operational efficiencies, improve energy efficiencies going down the road, and at the end of the day, enlarge the life of batteries, enhance the life of the batteries, give much better value to the end of life of the batteries, and take the entire cycle of the cell from manufacturing the cell to making it into a battery, putting it into vehicles, extending that life into secondary applications, refurbishing and recycling, and so on and so forth. So the entire ecosystem is up for grabs, and a lot of different people are working on this. I think Mr. Gurusharan can probably share more light on this when he brings into picture the ecosystem advantages. So yeah, I just leave it at that, saying India is a huge market for EVs. There is a huge pie to be shared across different segments of industries, and collaboration is the way forward to accelerate this, because we're already at that place where we have put in the seeds, and now we'll have to make sure they grow in the proper way and then reap the harvest. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Gautam. Now, we have Guru from e-mobility. And of course, you are into that space because I want to hear, and from what I understand, Guru has been experienced in many large EV motor companies in the world from the marketing side. So what are the pain points you've seen, and how are you going to be promoting your solutions generally for EV? And I think you come closest to addressing what's right on our topic today. So thank you.
Certainly. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Very warm welcome on a Sunday morning. Pardon the irony of warm. I think in Chennai, saying warm is not the best word. Just a few minutes ago, about half an hour ago, Casey was slightly worried that are we going to start on time? I said, your bigger worry is who are we going to speak to? Because thankfully, the hall is now full, but at that time, there was just three of us. Dr. Akshay came in a little late, so we were just counting the three of us. So I'm happy to see all of you here. My full name is Guru Sharan. It's very kind of Casey to refer me as Guru because the meaning of my name actually means that someone who respects knowledge, but by that acronym, I become the source of the knowledge. So I'll try to live up to that part of the name which Casey has given me. And another very interesting fun fact is Casey shares initials with a very popular radio host from the 70s who used to host a all-time favorite music program in the US. So I don't know whether you've been hearing that, Casey, because like he said, I'd like to welcome the young team, and I'd also like to welcome Guru. So I like to be reminded that I'm not young anymore.
I want to just add in that when the universe was born, with the Big Bang, all of us are born together. We're all actually the same age, Da. Come on.
Okay. So thanks for that. So just for the record, these two gentlemen and me are the same age. Okay, I just look a little different. I left my hair at home. So, before getting into e-mobility, everybody just gets into the subject. But I want to talk about two instances in my life, one from 1998 and one from 2010. The reason I am sharing these years with you is because then what I say will start making more sense. In 1998, I used to work for a company called Toyota, and I was watching an advertisement for a hybrid car, which was, one of the first hybrids in the world that was launched. And it was a US ad. It featured a Mexican father and his son having a conversation in a car. And he said, why do I have, it's a Spanish family. As you know, there's a lot of Spanish immigrants living in the US. So he says, why do I have to learn English? And he said, it's for your future. And he said, why have we bought this new car? And he again says, it's for your future. So without doubt, green technologies are the future. There are no doubts about it. It's just how soon we make this transformation and how seamlessly we can get there. The second incident that I recall is from 2010, which is when I was working with a company called Honda, again making cars. And we were developing maps for India because at that time, navigation as a technology was still not introduced. And I remember, in Japanese companies, you ask yourself the question why 7 times before you do anything, so that a customer never asks you why you have done something. So in each of those whys, we kept asking, why will a person ever use a map? Because in 2010, cities, urbanization of cities, the mass urbanization was still beginning to happen. People made very predictable journeys between their place of residence and their place of work, or where their children went to school or something. You socialized with people who you knew for a very long period of time, so you knew very defined addresses. If there was a wedding or something, the number of social venues in a city was very limited. Look at the world today. People are transitioning between cities with amazing dexterity, flexibility. In fact, Out of all four of us, none of us is from Chennai. So we have no way of finding our way around Chennai. And what the maps has actually done is it has brought that technology into the hands of everyday people. Nobody actually gets perplexed with how do I get somewhere because the map helps him get there. Now, how does this example actually relate to e-mobility? The next time an Amazon or a Blue Dart or a Flipkart or any other courier comes to your house, just take a look what sort of a vehicle he's come in. 9 out of 10 times he would have come in an electric vehicle. And like both Dr. Akshay and Gautam have been saying, electric vehicles make a lot of commercial sense because the cost of running these vehicles is significantly lower as compared to that of ICE. Electric vehicles have two main benefits. The first, of course, is the cost of running. The second is the friendliness, the reduction of the carbon emissions. Casey spoke about temperatures crossing 50 degrees. This global warming, we used to speak about global warming in a third person tense. But this global warming this threat is now real. I spend a larger part of my time in Delhi, and this was the first summer where air conditioners actually started blowing up. They started blowing up because they are designed for 50 degrees maximum ambient, and they are not designed for continuous 16 hours a day working, which is why ACs had started blowing up. Just imagine we are heating this planet to its complete capacity now, to its limit. And there is a need for each of us to find out how to minimize our impact on the climate and how to positively contribute to it. Speaking about what I do now, I work for a company called Customized Energy Solutions. We mainly work with clients, advising them in the area of strategy, technology, and market-ready solutions. We also run an industry alliance called India Energy Storage Alliance, which has about 200 members on the system, and it basically works as a EV ecosystem. It has members across OEMs, charging alliances, battery manufacturers, financing companies, CPOs, just the entire ecosystem, because for e-mobility to actually thrive, it needs an ecosystem and it needs a spirit of collaboration. So through this alliance, that's what we try to provide.
Thank you, Guru. That was fairly shocking to learn. I mean, one of the things I've learned as a teacher, and Guru is a teacher today, is the best teachers are students, and the best students are actually teachers. And in that respect, we are all learning. And I think Akshay was suggesting some questions, right? And I think, if we had questions, real questions, I think one of the value for us being here is, what do you really want, because your pain points. Yesterday when I was here, I was hearing the pain point. Somebody was a dealer in the evening talk was talking about, we only have 7 years for battery guarantee in EV. And one of my concerns is battery plays a significant part of the cost of an EV. So how is electric vehicle going to sustain? And what I hear today is the cost of EV. So maybe we should just share. How many of us have EVs? Hey, fantastic. Good. 2. Not yet. Okay. We're just climbing our way upwards because it's cheaper to have a non-EV. I'm being practical. As a customer, I want something that's cheap, affordable, and reliable. And so to me, I want to be practical about that. I wish I had an EV vehicle. I wish everything was EV. But my first question to everyone generally is, are we saving anything from the planet perspective? Because all the charging, if all the infrastructure is there, is the energy supplied to electric vehicles supplied by green fuel, or are we still using fossil fuels? Right? Because the production is being diverted to the front. Yes, so that's my general question, and I want to know the answer, what you think, and maybe you can expand on that and tell me, am I incorrect? Have you moved the responsibility by saying that EV is a solution, but is it really the solution when you need to have high voltage? Is it safe? And I think that's what I was hearing yesterday, right? So if anyone has a...
See, we have to look at the national grid average in terms of how clean it is. So if you look at today's installed capacity, we are roughly about 38% clean electricity production, in terms of installed capacity, the net energy that we produce from clean sources roughly stands about 20% right now. So from that perspective, when we're using grid-based electricity also, we are cleaner than directly burning fuel in our vehicles. The second aspect is that if in case we had absolutely all energy coming from thermal sources, it is more efficient in larger infrastructure to burn fuel as compared to burning directly in individual smaller engines in our vehicles. So from that perspective, it is better. I'm not saying it is the perfect scenario, but it is better, and therefore using electric, even with using grid electricity for charging, you are better off as compared to burning fuel in your vehicle. The challenge where it lies, as I was trying to explain earlier, is that there are a lot of emissions that are associated with battery manufacturing and the vehicle manufacturing part itself. And one thing which we don't really relate to that easily is that the amount of emissions that have gone into the manufacturing process for EVs can be twice as high or even more if you have a larger battery as compared to a normal fuel vehicle. So unless and until the vehicle is being used for really large number of kilometers during its life or on a daily basis, then we'll never be able to have a net emission saving, combining both the manufacturing emissions and the daily emissions that we are doing in the vehicle. So just to give you a ballpark, right? If you take a Tata Nexon, for example, which is available, I'm taking the example because that vehicle is available in both petrol and EV variants. Give or take, it will take you about 100,000 kilometers to hit parity between a fuel vehicle and an EV vehicle in terms of total emissions, manufacturing plus running emissions. Now, but if you use, like, let's, for example, you have a solar rooftop on your house and you completely use green electricity to kind of charge your vehicle, then in that case, the threshold would be 40,000 kilometers and not 100,000 kilometers. And as you kind of further keep on improving the manufacturing processes and the other aspects of the entire value chain, then that number can go down to as low as 15,000, 20,000 kilometers, where if you run your vehicle for 15,000 kilometers, your EV will be net carbon emissions positive as compared to the petrol or the diesel variant.
Thank you, Dr. Akshay.
I'll just quickly add on to that. Rightly said, we are still a coal dominant energy economy, right? So what that does is it's expensive to set up solar panels. It's expensive to set up wind and hydro turbines, right? And what's going to drive incentive or incentivize people to set up these or invest into these? I feel that's where the EVs come into picture or the battery charging comes into picture. As a collective, the energy generation market and the energy usage market, if everybody is going towards a greener side, that is where it will make sense. For example, if I'm saying I'm today owning an EV, by the way, I don't own an EV, I walk to my workspace, so I don't have an EV. If I'm charging the EV, like Dr. Akshay said, if I have a solar panel installed, it makes a lot more sense. But not everyone's going to invest into that solar panel, right? So what will drive the cost of solar panels down? Mass utilization, mass manufacturing of photovoltaic cells and other components. Now, it's a chicken and egg situation. If there are lots of EVs driving on road, it creates an opportunity for all of these components to be made in bulk. That's going to drive cost down. That's going to drive up the availabilities, and that will incentivize industries and individuals to set up these to charge the vehicle. So it's, like I said, a chicken and egg, and we are trying to address one side of the equation where we're trying to push EVs on road to generate that demand for clean energy generation, and we hope that is going to drive one another, and in the end we all end up at the same greener side of energy generation as an ecosystem.
So I'll just add on to that, Casey, and I think both Dr. Akshay and Gautam have resonated almost the same thought. Your question is basically that as the load on the grid starts increasing, is that a concern at all? So I think in terms of numbers he's already shared, today about 40% of the footprint is coming from renewables, 60% is still fossil fuel. Moving forward, I think in 2021, Honorable Prime Minister has announced a mission that by 2070 we will be net zero. We'll also have about 500 gigawatt of energy through renewable sources, which means that on the grid side we are trying to green the input power to these electric vehicles. When you look at the charging side, so one is that I just I just depend on the grid that whatever I'm going to consume, I am going to get green power. The second way of looking at it is that whatever I am using as a consumer, for example, solar panel at home or a charging station who uses, solar charging along with battery storage. So the biggest irony or fallacy of energy is that when it is generated, it needs to be consumed at the same time. So there's a lot of energy that is being generated, but it is not being used because. So, for example, think of it like a restaurant. There's about a restaurant that can seat 50 people. It only has 10 people seated there, but still the air conditioning caters to the entire restaurant. Because you can't plan that, okay, I don't know when these people are actually going to come in. So there are something called load curves, but those load curves aren't very precise. So which is why there's a lot of energy wastage also that is happening. Now, the solution for that is we need to look at battery storage both at grid level, and interestingly, the Indian government now is very actively engaged in this space. There are tenders that are coming out both for battery storage tenders at grid level and as of course at behind the meter. So I think that in the long term, a combination of increasing the energy generation from renewable sources and finding ways to store it and deploy it at when it is needed by consumers. A combination of these two strategies will help offset the burden on the load.
Yeah, a very good point you've raised, Guru. You've taught us also the importance of the battery itself. I discovered many things after I had my heart attack 10 years ago. So I can share my experience, and I discovered that there's actually the heart, and there's actually a battery. Can you hear? Oh, yeah, sorry. So the battery to a human body is actually the lungs, the two lungs. So our system, for example, one we're looking at, and we've got many patents on this area, is a switching battery, which is what my research shows, that it is possible now to integrate the solar with the battery so that you can now have continuous flow. So those are some of the solutions we're looking at. We've not explored the EV, but important point Guru mentioned is the ability to store, and the grid is not storing. The wastage primarily, if you look at, is fossil fuel. Before the electricity comes down to this hall, almost 90% is wasted, and 60% of all the energy of the fuel, from petrol, for example, 60% goes as thermal heat, and everything else is a loss. Then there's a transmission loss. In India, the grids are not powerful. It's compared to Singapore. So, for example, it's very efficient down there. Here, there's a loss, and the switching speeds are very fast, causing what I think is a high level of frequency. So these are areas I want to address as well, but I think it'll be useful to have some questions. What are the other concerns? And maybe there are concerns in the panel. So let's open up. We already exceeded the time, but it's okay. I'm not worried now. As long as we finish today, I think I'm happy. Right, Guru? Do you have mic?
So, gentlemen, I'd like you all to reassure Mr. Suresh that as long as the session finishes today, we are still on time. And there's a question from here. Can we request for a mic?
My name is Anand Patil, and my question is to Mr. Akshay. Since the topic is battery manufacturing, are there any, you can say challenges for exporting of lithium batteries to the developed countries in terms of regulatory requirements? And are the regulatory requirements harmonized in India and to the developed countries? And do we have enough testing facilities for lithium batteries in India? If you can answer this.
I think regulatory is not that big of a challenge. Cost parity is a bigger challenge. What we are fighting against is a big mammoth, which is China, in terms of the scale and the time advantage that they have over not just India, but whether it's Europe or whether it's US or any other country out there. They have been building this capacity for the last 25, 30 years, and they're really ahead of the entire world from that perspective. So how do you beat that scale is the bigger challenge. Contrary to general expectation, both US and Europe or any other countries in that matter would be more, so to say, conducive to take batteries from India, as long as we are able to kind of provide them at the right cost. In terms of testing, we already have testing facilities in India. From the perspective of being comprehensive, like every kind of test can be done. Are they enough in terms of capacity? There is a lot to be done on that side. When it comes to specific regulatory requirements, for example, in Europe, Europe is always ahead, as I read recently, right? So US builds technology, China builds scale, Europe builds regulations. So US, obviously Europe has been spearheading in terms of what kind of regulations should come. And one of the key things that is coming up in those regulations is the traceability of the entire manufacturing value chain in batteries, where the minerals came from, how they were processed, what kind of energy was used, where the batteries were manufactured, and all of those things. So I think we fare pretty well on that side. And as we kind of set up our manufacturing, my request to the larger ecosystem and my mission over here as we set up manufacturing with Log9 as well is to make sure that we are setting up greener and more greener processes in manufacturing. So I think with that, we can really target the European and the US market, but the challenge is really of how do we compete with scale that China has.
Sir, I'll just add to what Dr. Akshay said. The regulation he's mentioning is something called a battery passport. It starts in series right from April of 2024, and the timelines go up to 26 or 27. And I could share details with you about what it is all about, because that's what is going to become a very big challenge from the compliance perspective. And again, like Dr. Akshay said, that test agencies are there, but having the scale to do all the tests in one place, that is the first challenge. Second is the capacity in case you have very large aspirations. So, sir, I'll request for a very fashionable mic to be brought to you. You'll see it in a minute. I can see it. You have your back turned. Yeah. All right.
Thank you. Thank you for giving the opportunity. My name is Diptarak. You can say I'm the owner of one of the solar energy EPC kind of thing that I do. I have a lot of questions. I don't know how much time I'll have because some of the questions spilled from the yesterday. For example, one question is about what is the kind of standardization that you have for EV car, EV battery, EV charging system and all these things, so that because one of the probably driving factor will be the standardization for the confidence building part. Second is that from the PLI scheme of the government, how much incentive it is. And probably another question, third question would be we're all talking about green energy, green technology of EV. And I know there is a session at the end of today about the recycling of it, of the battery and other technology. I'm asking a better question because if we answer that question, probably it will be better adoption about the recycling of those lithium-ion batteries and other electronics, the e-waste.
Are you directing to anyone or?
Anyone can.
Okay.
Yeah, hi. I'll just take up a couple of those questions. So, in terms of, I understand how we are coming to that standardization point of view because it opens up a lot of market for players in the solar industry and other renewable space. I would say we are fairly ahead in terms of safety and functional standardized standards that have come out for specifically for EV batteries in the country. AIS 156 is the standard that's uniformly followed across all OEMs and all battery manufacturers that covers mainly all the safety aspects of the battery, right from the mechanical aspects, the electrical functions, the thermal propagation tests, and it consists of 16 to 20 different vigorous tests that go into. These are all specifically for EVs, specifically for EV batteries. So, and this standard has gone through 3 amendments within a single year, making it more and more vigorous in terms of testing. On all 3 aspects I mentioned, mechanical, electrical, and the thermal aspects of it. So, and it's now mandatory for every battery manufacturer to follow this before it hits any vehicle on road. So we are, I would say, quite far ahead in terms of safety standardization which also includes the functionalities and the features that should come into the batteries for the end user. I would let the others answer the PLI question that you mentioned. Sorry, what was the third one? Recycling, yeah. So now the AIS standard that I mentioned is a battery specific certification. Now there is also a vehicle, when it goes into the vehicle, there's also a vehicle type specifications that each segment of the vehicle has to clear. So safety standards are far ahead. We are on par with the international IEC standards, I would say, in terms of safety and functionality. So that's going to drive confidence in the end user to buy the EVs. Coming to the recycling part, I think we're all working on that recycling part in multiple different ways. I can answer you how we are doing it at Raise. So we own the batteries in a battery swapping ecosystem. And we collect tons of data from the battery, how it's performing inside the vehicle, discharge and charge profiles, what kind of temperatures it's going through the seasons that come and go in India, what kind of temperatures each cell has gone through. So we can basically use all this data and use mathematical models to predict how long the cells or battery is going to last, give it a proper value at any given point of its lifetime, and adjudge if it's going to go into recycling or it can be refurbished and reused in smaller applications, static storage applications, or it could go, if I'm using the batteries in a three-wheeler, it could next go into a two-wheeler, giving the same amount of range because the capacity of the battery is a little degraded. So using data and data-driven analytics of battery life is something all of us are working on in multiple different ways to get to know what point of the battery life should go into which kind of use case. And end of that timeline is the recycling part, where I think multiple different companies have come in, specifically Indian-based companies who have invested into mass recycling of lithium-ion batteries, and they can recover almost 90 to 95% of the raw materials, all the metals that are going into the lithium-ion manufacturing. They can recover that back and create this cyclic economy.
Next question from here.
So good morning. This is Baleshwar. So I just want to know one word, that what is that battery manufacturing in India when we do not have lithium source here? So it's not 100% manufacturing. Okay. So we may call it as a assembling maybe. So how do we the terminology you explain it, sir? I just wanted to know.
Akshay?
Raw material non-availability doesn't mean that local manufacturing cannot happen. Right? Raw material can come from any source, while yes, in ideal situation, it also has to be locally sourced. But for example, if you don't have any raw material available, that doesn't mean that you can manufacture it as well. Just to give you an example, in terms of lithium, only about 15% of world lithium exists in China, but 85% of all batteries are manufactured in China, and 95% of all lithium material processing happens in China. So it doesn't necessarily require you to have all the material being mined and sourced locally. But what is more important is securitization of supply chain, having access and control of that material coming up for your manufacturing needs, and then having state-of-the-art processes to be able to convert it into a product which can be sold in the market. So securitization is the first priority, indigenization of supply chain is the second priority, and controlling the supply chain is the third priority.
All right. Any questions? Sorry.
Sir, I'll just add to his answer about your localization. I'll give you a completely different perspective. The fourth largest car manufacturing country in the world is Japan, and they don't make steel.
Interesting. Can we get from the back? There, someone at the back. Can we pass the mic there? Okay, you go ahead, sir. Since you have the mic.
Yes, yes. I am from Renault Nissan. So, just related to this question, what are the current two solutions which will be affordable for the battery buying? Two solutions is available as a battery experts, which is readily available, but some the stalemates are there. We cannot do that one, but we can do in 1 year or 2 year. Two solutions can be provided, which will be affordable to buy.
EVs are already affordable to buy. As we just said, from a commercial application perspective, specifically if you're trying to use for commercial utility, even if you take the subsidies away, FAME subsidy away, it is lower in cost on a per kilometer basis as compared to a fuel-based vehicle for the last mile category of vehicle, whether two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler, taxi or cargo, whatever it is. When it comes to personal use case, yes, the parity is a bit away, and that's where subsidies are helping in terms of push the transition. So, unless I'm not getting the question, that's what my answer would be.
Oh, 1 minute. I am
Sir,
not asking
I
about-
understood your question.
Yes, battery, related battery.
Sir, I'll answer it.
Yes.
I think the first answer is swapping. I mean, that can be one immediate way because about 40% of the cost of the vehicle is coming from swapping, from the cost of the battery. So when you don't make battery as a part of the vehicle cost and offer it as battery as a service, maybe as a leasing service or as a something that I think Gautam is also doing, that is the first solution. When you asked two, I started thinking for very long what the second solution could be. And the answer possibly could be if you look at battery raw material prices and actual battery transaction prices from 2013 onwards. I think it has gone down by over 150% in the last 14 years. So as scale and industry maturity takes play, moves forward. You did say you're from Renault, so ICE industry has over 100.
Guru, time's up already.
Yes, it has over 100-year
I thought we
history.
had the whole day, but So I got to wrap things up. Thank you all very much. We got other solutions. It's being tested next 2 years, and that was a question. And I hope that we can discuss in person if you have. With the new solutions, I think in the future you can have smaller size battery because battery weight is a problem. What I do personally, got 9 US patents in battery technology itself, which I did post my retirement and learning when I went to Berkeley to study energy law. So I have a book also out there which is all about time modulations, where we are bringing internet technology to battery management. It's a dual core battery system, which I see as a solution possibly for the near future. It is similar to a dual core processor in computer internet technology. The dual core processor serves the client and the server. Similarly, what we are doing is a 4-terminal system, which I see as a possible solution, but we have not tested. So we are just providing a solution to work with battery manufacturers. We ourselves do not make batteries. But with that, thank you, all my guests. I think we had a lovely conversation and dialogue. My celebrities, my 2 young men down here, and my guru here, and myself. Thank you, guys. We'll have the conversation going. I wanted to hear more views, but we really have to go, I guess. It's a whole day already. Thank you.